New York City. While 100% committed to his artwork, there had to be a better way. Flash forward, he built a small, successful art and animation studio, won some awards, and had the awesome opportunity to work with some of the 20th century's greatest art brands, including Cartoon Network, Marvel Entertainment, Coach, Jeff. Does everyone get Jeff Koons? Major artist. The most successful artist since Andy Warhol. With Arting, that's one of his companies, he hopes to help emerging artists build a life around what they create and control of their own destiny. Can I show them your LinkedIn page?
Yes, sure, of course.
Okay. So his LinkedIn page shows that he's the founder of Arting. So he came out of school with a BFA, and he's the founder of a successful, how would you describe it, Arting?
So Arting was formed to help creative people build a life around the things that they make, right? So the challenge of creative people is that as I'm sure all of you know, you have no problems coming up with ideas, and a lot of creative people have no problem coming up with a product and creating the art. Where the problem happens is in trying to get someone to purchase that. It's a massive problem for creative people. So that was the solving.
And before that, you guys may not know the Startup Leadership Program. It's a very prestigious, very successful organization for burgeoning founders, burgeoning entrepreneurs. And then he worked at Marvel, and he worked at Jeff Koons, and lots of his own stuff. So I want to introduce Todd Wanish. All right. And I think you'll say a little bit about yourself. Oh, also, Todd and I do conversations online for entrepreneurial people to learn more. So he'll probably talk a little bit, and then we'll probably talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, and then questions from you guys.
Yeah, I'll kind of fill in some of the blanks here. And do you mind if I close the door?
Go ahead.
I'm a very passionate person, so I have a tendency to get loud, and that is okay. Also, when Josh and I start talking, feel free to interrupt. Just raise your hand, ask a question. It's totally cool. This is laid back, relaxing. This is a chance to actually for you guys to just pull out of me everything that I normally charge a lot of money for. So use that opportunity and just use me as a vessel for whatever questions you guys have. So my story originates when I first moved to New York. I was a homeless artist. I got here and I had been taught up to that point through high school. I went to an art high school, so like a magnet school for fine art. Went to college, I got my BFA, so I was a fine artist. When I moved to New York City to pursue that, I had been trained up to that point to just focus on my artwork, right? You're a creator, you're the entrepreneur, your art is your entrepreneurship, that is your business. Just focus on making artwork, and everything else will just magically fall into place. If you're really, really good, as any artist will tell you, that what the story is if you're really, really good, magic will happen. Someone's going to find you, they're going to discover you, they're going to knock on your door, and that curator, dealer, gallerist is going to take your work and put it out in the world, and all you have to do is worry about making the art, not selling it. Leave that to somebody else. So that's what I did, because I trusted people, and that's what has been taught throughout history for artists, really. And so when I got to New York, I focused only on that, and the result was that I was homeless because I was only painting and only drawing and didn't care about anything else, just singular focus. I was able to take a shower once every 3 weeks at a place called the Carmine Recreation Center. That's on the Lower East Side. Now it's named something else, but they have a beautiful Keith Haring mural, and I got to look at that every day while I was trying to dream and figure out how the hell I was going to make a living and what I was doing wrong. Because there was obviously a massive blank space, right? I was doing everything that everyone always told me, and I knew I had talent. I had already been talking to art reviewers and people that worked at magazines, and they were telling me great things, but it wasn't really converting into sales. So I was like, well, I got to change this. Something is wrong. So at that point, I decided to fill in all those blanks. So I started off my own. I ended up working with Cartoon Network. This is right when Cartoon Network was starting to blow up, and I was like, oh, well, this is a business where I can apply my art. So I became an animator, 2D, hand-drawn, cell animator. Did that for a couple of years, actually. Moved up through the ranks, became a director of animation there, worked on about 200 commercials, won like 30 awards. Learned how to make a living as a freelancer, as an independent consultant, where I was exchanging time for money, right? So they were now paying me per hour to do something, and I was getting paid to draw. So I was like, okay, well, that's step one. After that, I figured after a couple of years of that, I hit a ceiling, at least mentally. I was like, well, I'm either going to be working with these people or those people. So I had to take my game to a next level. So I started working with a lot of musicians. At that time, this is like late 90s and early 2000s, Dirty South hip hop was huge. So this is all the Atlanta scene, Dungeon Family, Outkast, Roots, Tony Braxton, all those guys, right? They all came out of Atlanta, and I just happened to be there at the time, so I started working with them and doing music videos. So got to work with all these guys, got to see behind the scenes of the music industry, seeing how ridiculously fake it was, which is awesome, because that actually cleared a lot of barriers for me as an artist, right? You always see, as a creative person, you always see the Basquiat's or the Jeff Koons of the art world, or in business, you see the Elon Musk and Zuckerberg. You don't really see the actual reality behind it because it's all masked in like this PR mesh to give you they have to promote the myth of the genius creator because you buy into that as a consumer, right? And people follow those footsteps. So it was really amazing to see like these hardcore gangster rappers just, super, body bags, cocaine, sex, horror, you name it. And they would be on set with all the cars, and then you learn that all those cars are actually owned by one middle-aged white dude in Decatur, Georgia, and he rents them to all the music videos. And then these hardcore rappers that are just like screaming terror, basically, in their music. Director yells cut, he would go over, and I'm thinking of one guy in particular, he would go over offset and sit down next to his grandmother and his little sister and read the Bible. Right? The nicest guy. And just very deep Christian beliefs, but he was doing this to feed his family. That's what happened to take off in his music, was this really hardcore message. So that was just a marketing aspect, but in reality, he wasn't like that at all. So it allowed me to start to really learn, like, oh, there's something here. It's not just about, this is actually business. This is how a business works. It's about marketing. It's about sales. It's about presenting yourself to somebody in a way that you want them to see you, and they need to see you in order to purchase something from you, right? So ended up doing pretty well with music videos. Got a nomination from the MTV Awards for Best Music Video of the Year, way back in the day now. Felt that I hit the ceiling again, moved up here. Started doing stuff for Saturday Night Live and still doing the animation studio stuff. And that started to move me into other things. So needed to expand my horizon a little bit. Ended up working for Jeff Koons. At this point, I ran my own business, so I knew how to be an independent business person, have a studio, have a few employees, some freelancers, some consultants. But I really wanted to up my game, and I knew how I ran my own business and just my own experiences. But I really wanted to know, well, how do the big guys do it? Like, how does the number one artist in the world run their business? Like, what's the difference between that level and what I was at, right? So at that point, I kind of bit the bullet, and I took a full-time job, which I didn't need, didn't want. It was a huge pay cut. It was a lot of ego swallowing, but I needed to learn. So I kind of went in almost as a spy. And this is something that you guys can do as well. It's a very classic, and I learned years later that this is actually a really classic move. Whether you do it as an internship or as an apprenticeship or something else, you can go into another business specifically to learn specific aspects of that business that you can then take and use for yourself. So I went in with a mission where everyone else went in because they needed a job and they just needed to get paid. There was a lot of artists, right? I went and I said, I need to know how the business structure works. I need to learn how this guy is making his money. What is he doing to sell? Now, this is a guy, in case you don't know, so as the slide said, Jeff Koons is the most successful artist. He's Andy Warhol. He gets a lot of press for the large prices that his sculptures and paintings go for. He currently holds, I think, the largest sale at Christie's for a living artist. He sold one of his balloon dog sculptures for $58 million, and that is average. The pieces that I worked on, I was actually painting and actually manufacturing a lot of the sculptures while I was learning all this stuff, and the average sale price for his sculptures was anywhere at the time between 6 and 8 million, and you just pump them out like a factory, pump them out. Learned that, did that for about 6-7 months, got all the information I needed. I was like waiting after hours taking photos and stuff, and trying to write down things in my sketchbook, like, okay, this is how he handles clients, when he brings clients in. Oh look, there's David Bowie, there's Jay-Z. Like, these clients are, very, very famous people in their own right. So it was interesting to see that level of interaction and how they work together and how that selling process went. And if you guys ask, I can go into more about that. leaving that was about 6 or 7 months there. I got everything I needed, and then I decided I had had enough. I knew everything, time to get out. And it was that time that I got a call from a friend of mine who worked at Marvel. He knew about my animation background, and he said, well, my boss is actually looking for pitches. Do you want to come in and maybe work on something? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I went in, and I came in with nothing and just off the cuff pitched something. So the original pitch, simplifying it, was essentially Office Space. I don't know if you guys know that movie. It's an old classic. Office Space meets Marvel characters. So it's like, if you know Marvel has like 8,000 properties, 8,000 different characters. Most people only know the top tier, X-Men, Spider-Man, Captain America, Hulk, that kind of Avengers, that kind of stuff. They have like 8,000 different characters, just from 50 years of making this stuff, 100 years, 75 years. So I said, well, what about those bottom level characters? I don't want the good ones. Like, just give me the dirt, like the ones that like made one appearance and they were like, oh, that's a terrible character, and they just shoveled that away into like some drawer at the bottom of the basement. So I said, well, what happens to those characters in this universe? Like, what do they do? They're never going to be an X-Men. They're never going to have their own series. They're never going to be able to do any of this stuff. Well, what do they do? So my pitch to them, the executives there, was essentially, these guys actually work at Marvel. They're the employees at Marvel, right? So they're just loser characters. And I was kind of making fun of us because I was there, and people were kind of losers. So I was like, okay, well, they're superhero losers, and they just kind of have to take care of all the real bigwigs, So there's like a lot of ego and stuff like that. So we ended up doing a pilot. We pitched at San Diego Comic-Con, got to hang out with Stan Lee while we were making it. He loved it. We did this whole launch for it. Got the pilot made. It didn't ever get to greenlit, but I was able to bring back characters like that are now kind of blowing up. So Squirrel Girl is a new one that's kind of big. I think they're talking about having a movie with her probably in a few years. Howard the Duck, which was cool.
You brought Howard the Duck coming back?
I brought him back, yeah. Yeah, so he knows who Howard the Duck is. You guys have no clue, right? Howard the Duck made like a brief appearance now in Guardians of the Galaxy at the end, like one of the bonus things. He was like in the tube or something. He's a duck, sassy duck. Stupid character, doesn't matter. Anyway, so I went through with this whole process and then launched my own startup, that arting company, because I learned all this stuff and it's like, well, I got to help other artists. Like, this is the way it's done. It's clearly worked for me. I know it can work for other people. Started that business, and about a couple years into that business, we started getting interest from other entrepreneurs. I have a larger entrepreneurial network here. Like, a lot of my friends, like Josh, are leaders and people who start their own companies and raise money. And they started coming to me, looking at the site and saying, hey, what firm did you guys use to build this thing? Like, it looks amazing. And I said, well, we built it because I had taught myself how to code and how to design and do all this stuff with the web, which is over the course of years. So we started doing that for people for fun, and it turned into something bigger, and now that's what we're doing. So we help, basically non-technical, creative entrepreneurs like you guys launch their own stuff, like take their ideas and make it and take it to the next level. So there's other stuff in there too, like toys and games and all kinds of stuff. So that's my story.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So when you, I'll stand here. So
I can grab a chair. We should do like a.
Well, then we need both equal chairs. I feel funny having a chair that's different than everyone else's chair. So when you talk about this is how it's done.
Yeah.
Actually, so you're distinguishing how you got things done with how, like, the mainstream way of getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the mainstream way of getting things done? Of, like, maybe not just in art, but when people go out, when they finish school, what's the mainstream way of people do stuff?
So the number one problem that I see, and it's very similar. Art and technology is very similar. First of all, I actually have a question for you guys. Like, how many people here in the room like actually want to start a startup or a business or do anything of the sort? Cool. How many people just don't know yet? It's totally fine. All right. How many people are actually here just because they like were forced to and kind of thing they have to do? Not the lies, right? Yeah, right. Come on. All right. So yeah. So the deal is that one of the things that really inspired me, especially as I moved into technology and the creative side of development for actual businesses, is that art and technology now is very, very similar. So if you guys decide to launch a business and you're creating a digital product, whether it's an app or an application or web or anything, software, you're without knowing it, you're going through the same process as an artist. You have a blank canvas, you're picking your tool, you're applying that tool to that canvas, you're creating something, and then you're hoping that it will sell. And the problem is actually the same. So just as in art school, where they say, well, don't worry about it, make that product, make that piece, and worry about the sales later, you actually get the same thing in startups, where they're like, well, it starts, they always say the right thing, but then they phrase it the wrong way. So they say, well, it starts with the customer, which is true. It starts with the customer. But then they follow it up by saying, so come up with a really good idea. Come up with your idea, build it, measure it, learn from it, and then cycle through it until you have something called product market fit, where your product is actually being purchased. And that's total bullshit, right? That's absolutely the incorrect way about it. Because what ends up happening is that people fail from the jump, because the hardest thing, the absolute hardest thing for any of you guys, and it's still hard for me, and it's hard for every entrepreneur I know, is that it's absolutely, when you create a product, it is 100% not about you. It's not about you at all. And that's very hard, because you're the one sitting there creating it. You're the one thinking about the idea. You're the one coming up with this, oh my God, I see this and it'd be an awesome solution. Here's a problem. I can't believe it hasn't been done before. I'm the one that's going to do it. I can do this. That's all about you. And you have to actually take yourself out of that. And the challenge is it starts with the customer, and that person has to pay for something. They have a pain, and you have to solve that pain. And that pain has to be large enough to pay you over a period of time, right? So the process from going to 0 to $1 million in sales is all about finding a consistent and repeatable way to find and purchase a customer, right? So I have to do that continuously and then stack sales, and then I hit $1 million in sales, right? And then after you hit $1 million, there's other problems. But up until that point, it's about discovery and figuring out a good way to pitch, figuring out the messaging, tweaking the product to be exactly what somebody wants to purchase, and then taking it to the next level. So the best way that I can really dive into it would be to say, like, so you think about, so there's two extremes, right? You think about Gandhi, right? So Gandhi, when you think about who Gandhi is as a person, he just helped people for nothing in return, right? Just really helped people. Okay, great. Well, that's a saint. Okay? No one in here is trying to be saintly, right? Then there's the other extreme where you just give all your shit away completely for free. You're not even helping, right? There's the two extremes. One is I help you 100%. I just give you everything you need based on your problem, right? That's saintliness. On the other side, here's a solution, my solution, here's my idea to solve your problem. Bam, 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 bam. Just give it to you. And that's what most entrepreneurs do. And that's called a martyr, right? You're dead. Like, you're not going to sell. You're not going to sell anything, because this is why 90% of startups fails. Because I have the solution here. I'm just throwing it at you. And it's like, whoa, this is not exactly what I was looking for, right? This is called martyrdom. So what you need to be is right in the middle. And the right in the middle is actual business, where you are doing something that is the most moral and most positive thing that you can possibly do. A business is the most positive thing you can actually do. You're helping people in exchange for capital. Their problem is so bad that they can pay you for it, and which means you can take that capital and reuse it and help other people. You can scale your business. You can scale helping people. The more you help people with the problems that they have, the more you get paid, right? And that allows you the ability to scale and help even more people, right? And you get rewarded for it. It's a very positive thing. It takes integrity and more. My job is to help you solve a problem, right? In fact, in business, if I do something to hurt somebody else, that's illegal, right? Drug dealer, right? Assassin, right? Those hurt people, therefore they are illegal. So legally, I'm obligated to actually help people solve problems. And if I can do that effectively, I get a monetary reward for that, which means I can grow and help other people.
So do schools teach this?
No.
I didn't come across any of this.
No, they don't. A lot of people, it's a very hard thing to come across. You know what I mean? It's just like anything. Like, by the time somebody realizes it, they're making money and they're successful. And maybe they're going to write a book, right? But they're busy in their own life. The only reason I came up to it was because I had failed so hard as an artist over and over and over again, you know. And once I had solved that, I was able, and I completely jumped into a completely different career. I went from artist to business owner who makes software products, right? And I started seeing the same trends. I was like, oh, so it's not just art, it's like everything, right? Most people don't have that. And honestly, even today, a lot of it is padded through venture capital and funding.
Yeah. So, I was going to say, most people come out of school, the very successful, people who are very successful in entrepreneurship are busy doing the thing. They're not going back to go to school to teach. Like, they're not becoming professors. They're not becoming high school teachers. The people who are becoming professors and high school teachers aren't going through this process because they're getting tenure and things that like make their lives very stable, but they're not learning how to listen to the customer and things like that. And then you pointed out how a lot of what outside of colleges, a lot of what's promoting entrepreneurship comes from venture capitalists. Venture capitalists some of them are in the business of helping entrepreneurs. All of them say they're in the business of helping entrepreneurs, but mostly, who are their customers? Does anyone know everyone knows what a venture capitalist is? Someone who invests in young companies to help them grow. Do you know who their customers are?
The people that they're getting money from?
Yeah. So they have money, their businesses invest in money, get more back than they put in. Well, where do they get their money from? They go to other people and say, we're really good at investing. Give us your money, we'll invest and give you back more than you would have gotten otherwise. So their customers are other investors. So so if there's a conflict, when things work well, the investor puts money in, the venture capitalist helps the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur grows faster, that business grows faster than it would have otherwise. They get more of a return than they would have, and then they give that back. But if there's a conflict between, say the business is doing okay but not great, and it's not going to give back the return that they hope for. Now the venture capitalist is like, you're not doing so well. I'm not going to be able to return as much as I wanted to my investor, to my customer. Who's the venture capitalist going to side with if there's a conflict between the customer and the entrepreneur? They're going to be the customer. So sometimes if your business isn't doing well, what you guys might know this, one of the worst things for a venture capitalist is a business that does okay but not great. If it does really well, they get a big return on their investment. If it does okay, like it makes enough money to support the entrepreneur, maybe even support the entrepreneur living very, very happily. So the entrepreneur could be getting rich, but not enough to pay back a big return to the investors. They don't like that because that money is not enough to return to the investors. What happens if a company does really badly? Do you guys know what happens? What? From the venture capitalist perspective, they're like, shut this thing down. Let's take a tax write-off, and we'll at least give a loss. For tax reasons, to give a loss to an investor is better that's actually better for the investor in many cases than a business that does well but not enough, like well for the entrepreneur, but not enough to pay back to the investors. So sometimes they'll shut down a successful business, or they'll get that business to change in a way that's not what the entrepreneur ever wanted, in order to be better for their customers. So there's a conflict often between the venture capitalist and the entrepreneur. It seems like things like this happen. I don't know if you
Oh, well, yeah, of course. I mean, a lot of the times, I see it happen quite a bit.
So let me just finish this.
Yeah.
So a venture capitalist, they're going to try to guide entrepreneurs to do stuff that's good for them. The venture capitalist, not necessarily good for the entrepreneur. So there's a bit of a conflict there. There's not a lot of places that teach entrepreneurship in a way that's like not just a purely academic subject of like what you guys were talking about the factory with the generator thing, which is not worthless, but not necessarily going to help you start a company.
Yeah, and I would add to that and say that a lot of the things that I see, and this is something that you guys should take with you as well, is like, eventually you have to make a decision. Like, some people are way, way better in running a business that already exists, and that's totally fine. And some people are better at launching this flower thing from the ground up, right? Some people really are attracted to that, and some people that's too risky. Too risky. I'm going to run this company, and entrepreneurs are like, I don't want to run that company that already exists. That's too risky. So it's different. So what happens a lot of times is that the person or persons who found a company are not the same people that end up running it if it gets to a successful point, right? And you'll see this if you read enough like online tech blogs or anything news related in tech, what ends up happening is over the course of time, if you track companies and there's like some kind of cool business that you like that's new, what you'll find often is that a couple of years in, once that business scales, where it's like a really popular business and they're doing really well, you'll instantly see a press release that says that the founder and CEO is stepping down, they're moving to a chairman role or a board of directors role, and they're installing somebody else, right? A lot of times they always have a press release that says, no, I understand, it's totally fine, it's my time. There's a really nice statement from the founder saying, no, this was always the plan, this is exactly the best, the growth of the business and for the betterment of everybody, and we really care about culture. It's bullshit. What happens most of the time is that there's a freaking struggle inside because the founder doesn't want to give it up, right? He's like, look, I just built this to whatever success we're at now. Why should I step down? And then the investors come in and the board comes in and says, because you've never managed a $200 million a year business, right? We're going to install somebody who actually has done that and does that well and knows, because there's different challenges. So it's very hard from that entrepreneur perspective, that creator standpoint, to give up the reins of something that you built with your bare hands from the ground up, to be like, this is not my thing anymore, right?
I want to ask you in a second, but first I want to ask them, what should someone do if they're a high school student or going to college to prepare if they want to be an entrepreneur? Is getting a liberal arts education useful, or if it is, how so? If not, what should they do instead? But I want to ask you guys, so you guys are going back to school in a couple of weeks, and does anyone have a school that has a class in entrepreneurship? Are you guys going to take those classes? Have you already taken it, or?
No, I didn't plan on it. My class is also like entrepreneurship, so business management.
Mm-hmm.
And so it covers like finance, human resources.
Okay, lots of different, like it's a broad class. So do you guys how many people here, you're in this class, you're interested in entrepreneurship. Have you guys thought about how you're going to prepare for it? What resources might be available in college or in high school or things like that? Are you thinking more about it as a result of this class? So they're not really sure what to do.
Do you guys know, just leave it out, it's totally fine. Like, do you guys have an idea of what you want to be, what you want to actually do when you're out in the world yet? Or are you still kind of figuring it out? What's yours?
Something like chemistry or biology.
Cool. Anyone else? Does anyone have, it's okay if you don't have the ideas yet, but does anyone else know, what's up?
I think I want to work in fashion, PR.
Cool. Awesome. So I would say, I don't really, I have I guess a different perspective on this kind of stuff, because I would tell you that, and people might get mad, but I think most modern educations are totally worthless. They're just worthless. They can help you get
I'm in such trouble.
Yeah,
I'm
not very PC. I'm sorry. The problem is that most educations educational institutions are there to help you get a general sense of things, right? Because just think about how many hundreds of thousands of students, if not millions, that they serve, right? You can't tailor a full education to just you, and a full education to just you, and a full education to just you. You have to say, okay, well, this is a large institution. Here's generally what people need, right? Here's a general thing. So you get general educations. And you usually, the traditional way is you wait until you get into your college or your master's program to get specifics. The problem is you're wasting all this time. So what I would suggest is, it's important to get an education, but there's absolutely no reason that you can't start today through testing things. It costs literally almost nothing to start experimenting with some Facebook ads, to target a little landing page, to create a product. Or if you can't create a product, source one online. You can make a t-shirt off of Teespring for free. They do all the distribution, handle all the customer service, handle all the e-commerce stuff. All you do is put a design on a shirt or a hoodie or one of the other products that they have. You set a price and you can start marketing it. That's it. You can do that tomorrow. You can do it today. $5 on Facebook ads. And you're going to fail miserably. And that's good, because you have to learn what doesn't work. And I'm telling you, especially because you said fashion, so I'll just focus on you for a second. If you're interested in fashion and marketing and PR, Think of the value you're going to have if you were to start, okay, well, I learned what a Facebook ad is, I learned what a landing page is, I learned what a funnel is, and I learned how to move people from cold traffic to warm traffic to hot traffic, what that even means, right? And maybe 6 months from now, or a couple weeks from now, or 3 months, whatever it is, you start making sales. And these are sales that you don't even have to worry about managing. Another company handles that, right? By the time you get to college, by the time you get out into the world, think of the value you're going to have from any business. If there's 50 potential employees and they're all coming to me for a job, right? Hey, this is my resume. Hey, this is where I'm really good at. Here's my history. I worked for this person, worked for this person, this person. And you come up and say, here's my revenue for last month, right? I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been doing this for 1 year. I know how to set up Facebook ads. I could probably use a little work there, but I push it through there. My conversion rate is this. It doesn't matter whether you're successful at it or not, right? If you're successful at it, you'll never need a job again because you'll be successful at it. If you're not successful at it, then you've just separated yourself from everybody else. Everybody. There's almost no one that comes up and says, most people come up and say, I need a job. Here's my resume. Here's where I went to school. Here's where I worked, right? I did an internship over here. There are very few people that say, hey, here's all that. Plus, here's my own micro business that I've been doing on the side and learning from scrappiness, right? Boom, you're instantly in because you now made yourself way more valuable. Oh, this is someone that takes action and is actually learning, not in a book, but actually putting it to action and putting it out there. Failure is irrelevant at that point.
Actually, I saw guys that speak who, he spoke to the head of admissions of Harvard and Princeton. And he said, what do you guys really look for? Because like SAT scores, when everyone's getting around the same level, it's not like a big differentiator. Like what do you look for? And he said, we look for things that the person had to do as an individual. That person, there's no question that it was that person doing it. So, like he asked him about sports, and he said, we don't really look at team sports. You can play football, and maybe you played well, maybe not, but there's 11 other people on the field, or 10 other people on the field at the same time as you. We don't know how you did. And then he said but one of the admissions people talked about some guy some mountain biking thing where he biked some big distance. And this guy had to do it. There's no question that this guy did it. There was someone else who sailed a boat well out of range of land. And they're like, okay, if you're out of the range of land on a boat by yourself, you had to have done that. You can't have hidden out as the guy who wasn't really doing stuff and you got carried by the team. And so they look for things that you personally did. And so even grades that's more important than grades, is what this guy was saying. So I wasn't there. I just tell you that I saw this guy. He said he's talked to them. And so if you're saying, this is the revenue that I got in my business, and I'm the only person, I'm the sole proprietor, I think it would qualify as one of those things.
Yeah, I'll even add to that. It's just basically, how many of you guys know someone, either a friend or family, probably family members, who are still kind of freaked out about losing a job or anything like that, right? We all have some family that's like, oh, my job sucks, it's so hard. They come home, they're just really upset, but they're afraid, they still have to show up and do things because they're afraid to lose a job. That's a totally normal thing. When I went into Marvel, I went in owning that relationship. It's my leverage, right? Now, owning the relationship doesn't mean that I'm some rock star, egoed out dude that they serve me. That's not what it is. I was an employee. I went in there. The guy who's the boss said, do this. I said, yes, sir, and I did it. But I own the relationship because I went in there with something that I had made. They hired me to make something specific based on things that I had made and put out in the market before.
So what does owning a relationship mean?
So that means that you have the strength to so I was able to be separate from other people internally. Okay, so where every day I would go in and I had my own project, right? You have to think of these as little empires. And wherever you work, your goal, if you take a job, is to get into a position where you can take on and own some kind of project. Doesn't matter how small it is, you have to own that project, right? And eventually you'll have a team underneath you or whatever, but you have to own that relationship. And what this means is that when everybody else would come to work at Marvel or anywhere else, it's not just at Marvel, but when anyone else would come in, they clocked in, they had to get their job done, they were worried about their day, they were worried if they didn't hit their numbers, they were worried if the boss didn't like them, they were worried about this meeting, what if this thing didn't go well? Worry, stress. I was the happiest person alive because I already knew that I could have my own business. I came from a point of having my own studio because I had put myself out there. right? Even if I had failed, which I have hundreds of times, right? Just having that knowledge meant that they couldn't hold me. They couldn't demand something that if I really didn't want to do it, I could just walk away. It's super free. So I was walking in there, I'm like, hello, how are you doing? Good morning! You know, I'm like this freakishly happy person there, and everyone else is like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Like, why is he happy? He doesn't even know life sucks and jobs suck and this is a sucky thing. It's like, no, because I'm launching my own product within a multi-billion-dollar company. Whether it succeeds or fails doesn't matter, because I'm making something in the belly of this beast on my terms. And whenever I'm bored, whenever I'm tired of it, I'm out, right? And that's what I did. So you have to go into situations with a purpose. If you just go, most people just get jobs because they need cash, and they're like, oh, that's kind of cool. I want to maybe I'll do some retail, or I'll work at the Gap, because that's cool and I could learn. But you want to go in with a purpose. What do you want to learn there? What is it that any business that you are working for, or interning at, or starting, what is it that you can actually take away and learn and go home and write it down and say, oh, this is how they do things, right? There's a reason why it's working, right? It might be light years beyond where you are. You know, a $100 billion company is very different from starting from scratch. But there are certain things that they're doing that on a basic level that worked enough where you could scale. Oh, that's what they did. Oh, that's how they actually organize their teams. Why do they organize that team that way? What do they learn? Oh, okay, they're breaking it up, and this person handles that, and this person. Well, maybe right now I have to handle all that stuff, but now I know the 4 things that I have to handle as a person who's about to start. Does that make sense? Yeah?
That to me is an illustration of the difference between entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial problem solving. That you're behaving entrepreneurially, though you're. Okay. You sent the report in the email to me?
Yeah, I forwarded.
Okay, cool. So I think it's fair to say you were behaving like an entrepreneur within a large organization, or kind of mercenary.
100%. 100%. It's like, again, you don't want to be the martyr, and you don't want to be, the priestly saint. You want to be the hustler in the middle that's providing massive value and get paid for it, right? Like that's what you want to be.
That's what I meant in my do you guys know the difference between like a full professor, a tenured professor, and an adjunct professor? Some do. Yeah. So at a university, there's the full professors who are tenured. A tenured faculty is like, tenure means that you went through this process of publishing a lot of stuff, your research is valuable, and tenure means it's very, very difficult for you to lose your job. You have a lot of protection. And that's, in principle, it's there so that you can research and do research in areas that other people might not agree with, and you have academic freedom. And it's virtually impossible to fire a tenured faculty unless they do something like really like lying or cheating or stealing or something like that. So they are with you. Like my dad, he got tenure before I was born, and he's at the same job now that he was before I was born in Philadelphia. And it's a very comfortable lifestyle, and he gets to do research, and he gets to be a university professor, and that's what he does. Then full professor, but not tenured, is someone they're almost that, but not quite. They have a little bit of less academic freedom, but they're also there for a long time. And by virtue of, they're very academic. They teach you about knowledge. They're trying to increase the amount of knowledge you have, and they're trying to increase the amount of knowledge that the world has by doing the research. They're the ones who really decide what a university does, because they're there forever. If the university does something that they don't like, they're going to be mad at them forever, the faculty. So they make the big decisions. An adjunct professor like myself is someone who works out in the world and does stuff that's not just academic. And they'll teach a class here and there, but generally not, like, it's not my full-time job to work here. But in medicine, like to become a doctor, they're equally valued. People who do research into new types of surgeries and new types of medicines, they're valued equally as someone who goes out and does a lot of surgery and actually is in there doing whatever doctors do. I think in law it's similar. There are people who research law and people who practice law, and everyone recognizes that students need both. But in most liberal arts schools, practice is not nearly as highly valued within the school as academic research. So I think one of the reasons he's saying that people aren't so into that you don't value a lot of mainstream traditional education is that it's very academic. And learning about entrepreneurship isn't nearly as important for someone who wants to become an entrepreneur as learning to practice it.
Well, it's also a 20th century mentality, right? Like Like if you look at the way the educational system is built now, it's a very old model, right? So if you look at what it was built for, it was built, I mean, there was a time in the United States where this was the manufacturing capital of the planet, right? The industrial capital of the planet. And so it was important for you to be a generalist so that during the mid 20th century, early 20th century, even late 20th century, you could go out into the marketplace and slot. Oh, well, I have a science degree. Okay, cool, so we'll put you in this department, right? That's not really the case anymore. Now you've got the whole planet. You've got the internet, and you have the ability to literally create anything, and someone out there is going to like it, right? I'll tell you this: if you actually want ultimate freedom, it sounds a little preachy, but it's absolutely true. Trying to launch a little venture, micro venture, something, Facebook ad or some other type of ad, some social network, pulling in just a small number of people, converting them on some type of pitch or sales page. It's ultimate freedom. You want to go to that concert? You want to take that trip? Oh, let me throw this ad up. Okay, boom! I just made $2,000 in like 24 hours. Okay, great, I'm out. Right? Like nobody who has that ability. So few people have that ability. Right?
But the tools are all there.
But it's all there. You have the option to do that. You have the ability to set something up, make your own way, and push something out there and actually see a result for it.
For microventure, like what type of thing? Like how you were talking about like the t-shirt designs or something like that? It's like a small business, it's like easy to run?
Yeah, anything. You don't have to start big, right? You should always have big ideas, right? It costs you nothing to think gigantic, right? But you can take micro steps. So you figure out, what do I need to have a business? Right, to sell this thing. Okay, well, I have to have a product. Well, do I make that product, or is there already something out there? Maybe there's something on Amazon, right? Okay, well, if I have something on Amazon, if it's already there and someone's going to take care of the shipping and handling, all the logistics stuff that you don't want to handle right now because you're just one person. Okay, cool, done, right? Maybe it's an affiliate. If you're into fashion, there's so many different fashion companies that act as affiliates that will send their product if you make that sale. Cool, so then you focus on the sale and you focus on traffic. Right? There's a really simple, if you think about it like this, if you have something that someone's going to pay, and think about it as a subscription service, okay? So this is a little more advanced. It's not just selling a one-off object, right? Which you should do first because it's kind of the easiest thing. But just think of it one step higher. If you had something that someone was willing to pay, I don't know, $30 a month, some kind of club, some kind of exclusive forum, maybe you were teaching something about whatever it was that you're good at now, to other people your age or maybe a little younger, you know what I mean? Maybe there's like a couple kids that can get parents' permission and all that kind of stuff to purchase from you, or people that are 18 or over, right? Your age group. If you could figure out a way, find something that they want where they would be willing to pay $30 a month for, all you would need is 500 people. Do the math. What's 30 times 500? 150,000 per year, right? Or is it more? 180? Something like that. It's over $100,000.
That's right.
Our IQ's dropping around here.
150,000 a year. So boom. Now think about that, right? How many billions of people on the planet? How many people are on Facebook? How many? There's billions. You're talking now about something that's completely doable. You mean all I got to do is get 500 people on the planet, and I'm making that kind of money, like passive? That's not hard. That's not hard. And you don't even have to screw 500. Do 100 people. Do 10 people. You're making a few hundred extra bucks a month. Done, right? It's about starting from ground zero and trying something out and seeing what works, and then honing that message over time, dialing it in, and that money starts to trickle in a little bit. And I'll tell you, man, you guys, there is nothing like it. There is something very, very unique that happens to a person when they put something out into the universe and someone pays for it. And it doesn't matter whether it's $1 or $100. The minute you get your first dollar from something that you actually made, it's life-changing because you realize you literally like cross the Rubicon because you can't go back. All of a sudden you're like, holy crap, someone just paid me for this thing. Like, I have a customer. And then you want another customer, and then you get a couple more, and you're like, why would I ever get a job? Why would I ever work? No one is going to ever pay you as much as you pay yourself. No one. Even after you pay, for people that work for you. You're unlimited. You can do whatever you want. If I want to make $250,000 this year, guess who? It's up to me. Now I may not make it, or I may pass it, but that's up to me, and that's the way it should be, right? It's up to you to do, and that takes ownership. It's not up to somebody else whether you do a job, or you get a job, or you get paid, or you don't get paid, or you get a raise, or you don't get a raise. If I want a raise, I get a raise. I bust my ass, I figure out a way to make a little more cash, and I get myself a raise. And maybe I don't get it, but I've learned along the process. I've learned the way. All right.
I'm fired. Now, to know what, okay, so getting 500 people out of a couple billion seems like small, but how do I know what to offer? It's like I can't just, I know I can get a t-shirt,
Yep.
but how do I know what design to put on, or how do I know what to...
So you research your market, right? So every one of you guys, there are certain websites that all of you are on, whether you know it or not. There are certain websites that probably all of you hit like once a day or once a week together, right? Facebook, I don't know, something, Snapchat, whatever it is, right? And then, boom, you splinter off. Everyone's in their own tribe. There's certain sites that you go to that you don't go to, and certain sites that you go to that you don't go to. Everyone has their own different thing. You all have your own little universes surrounding you. And especially when you're young, and this is something that older entrepreneurs have as well, but especially when you're young, you have a feeling of like, well, how am I going to do that? Like, I'm not old enough, I don't have that much experience. Like, why the hell would anyone want to buy something from me, right? Like, who am I? And this is something that experienced entrepreneurs know, is that nobody is you, right? You're unique, you have a unique thumbprint, you have a unique voice. The things you like and the way you like them and the way you talk about the things you like is completely different from everybody else. And all you need to do is find a small segment of people that look up to you in your perspective of that specific thing. So a perfect scenario is like an example would be is like if I want to learn how to ride a bike, okay? I am much more likely, and this sounds counterintuitive, but I'm much more likely to buy a course on learning how to ride a bike from somebody who just learned how to ride a bike than I am someone who won the Tour de France, right? Than I am from Armstrong, right? Because
He didn't win the Tour de France.
okay, fair. Yeah, I know. Asterisk. Whatever. Than like a famous bicyclist, okay? And the reason is because if you just learned how to ride a bike, right? If you just learned, think about what you're going to teach me. You're going to say, okay, well, day one, I'm on day 3, so I'm still learning how to ride. But on day 1, you're going to get on, and you might want to have some like little pedals on there or something, and you just kind of wobbly, maybe prop yourself up against the wall, and you're going to be wobbly, and you're going to fall over a lot. But I'm telling you, maybe this can be knee pads, or this is knee pads that I use, right? You're going to be able to relate immediately to someone who is right behind you. Whereas if I bought that course from that professional cyclist, they're going to be like, okay, first thing you do is you get up at 3 a.m. and you're going to pound 13 raw eggs, and then you're going to run for 6 miles. I'm like, whoa, like, I don't think so, man. Like, not me, Like, it's not going to happen. It's so removed, right? And this is why startups and entrepreneurs always have that first mover, that fast mover advantage, because big companies cannot relate to just one person. They have to get as many people as possible. They have to be that institution like education is. They have to be very general and expand, whereas you have a huge advantage. You can talk to that one person and be like, hey man, that was me last week, right? All you have to do to teach somebody something or to sell somebody something is be one step ahead of where they are now. There is something that you know that somebody that you've known about for a little while that someone is just today learning about for the first time, and you can teach them that, right?
You don't have to be experts.
You don't have to be an expert. You just have to know a little bit more than someone coming in, right? And likewise, same thing with products. Like if someone is just now learning about something that you have collected or you know about or you have deep knowledge in, just from a couple of months, like you can use that language, you can use that education to educate somebody on what's cool, right, in your mind, and then sell it to them, right? Hey, guys, what you want to do is, like, this is the best video game ever, da-da-da-da. Actually, that one I didn't like so much, but this one's really cool, this is why. By the way, here it is. Use my affiliate link. Full disclosure, I get a little commission, but, it'll help me out, and it'll help me to continue to write reviews for you. Done. You're going to get a couple sales from that if you build an audience that follows you for that, right? So you don't have to think about it as like some massive venture, right? Even Facebook when they first started was not a massive venture. They had no clue. It was a dating site. Like it was a
A rating, yeah.
Was that like a college?
It was a college thing. So Zuckerberg's first thing was, his first venture that failed was, I don't remember the name of it, but it was basically a hot or not. So like decades ago, there was one of the first viral sites was something called Hot or Not. Did you guys ever hear about that at all?
Was that the one where you like rate people?
Yeah. Hot. She's a 6. He's a 4. He's a 10. You know, dumb, right? And he used that. Basically, he wanted to get dates in college, so he created a little social network that was basically Hot or Not, but had some chat features in it, so people can now
Contained within
Yeah,
Harvard.
contained within Harvard. So yeah, they were like, oh, okay. Well, what if I see a person and I want to talk about it? It was kind of sleazy. It was like, yeah, she's hot. No, that's great. Right? Like they were actually, it was a way for people to talk back and forth, and that's the part that took off. Right? Same thing with Instagram. Instagram wasn't Instagram. It was Hipstamatic. I always get confused because Hipstamatic was a different site. They had it Bourbon. So they called it Bourbon, and it was a social network. And it was like, they were actually trying to have it be a Facebook competitor, but on your phone. Right? And the filtering was one feature of this massive thing. Right? And they built too much. And it was tanking. Like nobody was using it. The only thing they noticed, and they did a lot of deep research, and kudos to them for not giving up on it, they looked at it and they said, well, the only thing that people are actually using is this stupid filter thing, right? For photos. Is that a thing?
I don't know. The light's not gone. Usually we'll be announcing if there's an issue.
Is it like a lockdown?
What?
Is it like a lockdown?
I don't know. I've never heard this before, but I don't see the fire thing going.
There's like some dude with a beard waiting outside it.
No, he's in one.
They kind of creepy.
Okay.
The purchase order or something?
There you go. That's the last one. We killed it.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? This is your Fire Safety Emergency Action Plan Director with the drill announcement. We will be conducting a fire safety drill throughout the morning. Please wait for your floor to be called and follow the instructions given at that time. Once again, this is your Fire Safety Emergency Action Plan Director with a drill announcement. We'll be conducting a fire safety drill throughout the morning. Please wait for your floor to be called
Maybe they'll start.
and follow the instructions given at that time. Thank you.
There's our field
Can't
trip.
wait for that.
Oh my god, that scares me.
Well,
Anyway.
can I use this transition to see if there are questions for
Yeah.
you guys? Because it's been about an hour, a little over an hour. And do you guys have questions for Todd?
Wow, I did a great job. Yeah.
How long were you homeless for?
I was homeless for 4 or 5 months.
Does that mean living on the street or living
Yeah.
in friends' couches?
No, it was the street. I got pictures. I can show you.
Did you ever have any like really unsuccessful businesses that you tried to start?
Hundreds.
Like what?
All of them up until like the last few years. No, yeah, a bunch. Godly, so many to name. I mean, a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I put out. I mean, I practice what I preach. So you put out a product, you say something, you try it, and then it either works or it flops. And sometimes it's really hard to know when it flops. So you stick with it for like 8 months, right? You're like, oh no, if I just do this one more thing, maybe it'll work, and then it doesn't work. So I had a toy company. We got products out. We had designers from all over the world. I designed a little toy. Did you guys ever hear of a company called Kid Robot?
Yeah.
It used to be huge.
That's a
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, so I did designs for them. I did stuff for Gorillas and Dunny and a bunch of other stuff. And I had my own toys. I got picked up from a Hong Kong toy, like the Hong Kong toy movement is what started the whole designer toy movement. So I got picked up from a Hong Kong company that wanted to promote Brooklyn artists and things like that. So I got my work on these toys, and that got me to Kid Robot. And I learned the process, and I said, oh, I want to do this. This is awesome, man. I can make toys forever. This is cool as hell. So I got a manufacturer in China, and I did a contest where we said, okay, well, anyone out there, we'll do a contest. You put your artwork on like a little diagram, like a toy design diagram. I said you can use crayon, Photoshop, whatever it is. Upload it. We'll do a public vote, so everyone votes on it, and the ones that win, the 12 most voted things, I'll actually make the toys. I'll go to China. I'll make these freaking toys, and I'll get them into boutiques around the world. I had absolutely no idea how to do that. I had no distributor, no experience manufacturing, no connections to any boutiques or anything like that. I was like, I'm just gonna do it. And the reality was, to be 100% honest, I honestly thought that no one was gonna like it. I only told my friends. I seriously told like 20 people. I said, okay, well, these are 20 friends. They're all creative. They're artists, they're animators, designers, graffiti artists. It's like, 12 of them will pick up, right? And we'll get some cool designs on there, and then I'll just make it, and it'll be something for our friends. None, not one of my friends hopped on it. But what ended up happening is it went viral, and we ended up getting 150,000 people to vote for these like designs for hundreds, I don't remember, a couple hundred designs. Italy, Serbia, Mexico, Argentina. So that was a success, right? But we got the manufacturing done. It took forever because I knew nothing about it. So we had one manufacturer that just took money in China and ran. We went to another manufacturer, got that stuff, got it made, got it into stores, did the distribution. But the money that came back was so prolonged. You had to put so much money up because it was traditional manufacturing. I still get paid from it. I still get checks from it, but it's like $100. It's like $50. So we made the money back, but it took literally 10 years. So I was like, I can't do this. Like I would have needed, the reason it failed for that specific example is because I had no clue how much money it was going to take to continue with that thing, right? Like that was a failure. So you say, okay, well, we'll just have to shelve this. And it's really hard, man, because you have passionate people and they're like, when's the next thing coming out? And you're like, it's not, or maybe it is. I mean, we have people making cakes with their toys on it and tattoos, like the whole thing. You're like, ooh, you got a tattoo. I'm sorry. You know, like yes, right, yeah, that's passion. So, but you know, what do you do? So you just kind of say, okay, well, you know, you put that in a little sketchbook of ideas and say, well, maybe I can figure this out later on, but for now I gotta move on. The art company, the arting thing, that's a much more recent, I would consider that a failure. We had to pivot from the business. We found a solution through my own experience. I said, I know how to do this now. I have gone from zero to making a life for myself, right? And actually selling art and doing all that stuff. I said, okay, let's just take that and make it into a platform. We did it. I interviewed over 150 artists, so do the whole custom development thing. This is doing the startup the way that the startup world wants you to do it, right? The same way the art world. I was like, okay, well, these people are smarter than artists, so I'm just gonna follow this methodology. So I found people, I interviewed them. Based on those interviews, I invested and I built an application, a web app for it. And we got people on it. We got people to sign up for it, and everything was great. I was like, oh, thank God, we're going to do this. This is fantastic. And then, like, nothing sold. Nothing. Like, a couple things. You know, a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there, but nowhere near what we needed. And it was an instant realization that I made, like, the same mistake that I had made as an artist, and that's misunderstanding the market. I was like, of course it's not going to work. They were just like me when I was back in the day. They're trained for other people to sell. So artists were coming on the site and be like, cool, man, so here's my artwork, please just send me a check, right? And I'm like, no, you actually have to, we're giving you the platform for you to make this career, but you gotta make your career, man. Like, you have to do it yourself, right? So that's when I started educating artists and educating people like your age and a little older, and seeing that when I did that, they would come to the platform, and that's when they would kind of get inspired enough to do something for themselves. But that's not a business. I can't do that for 100,000 people, you know what I mean? Unless I do something else. So that was when we got a call from a fellow entrepreneur in the city who was like, hey man, your site's gorgeous, where'd you guys make it? We're like, well, we made it. They're like, oh cool, you made it for us. We're like, yeah, why not? And we just did it as a friend. You know, we got paid for it, but we weren't like, we're gonna be a agency, a startup that helps startup. You know, like that wasn't a thing. So we were like, yeah, that sounds cool. I mean, it'll help us cover our losses and give us a little bit of time to figure out how to fix what was going on with the site. And what ended up happening is we did that one thing, and we finished it, and they told somebody, and they called us, and they called up someone else and someone else. So all of that, this was just last year. And so like it took up our whole year. In December, we were at Christmas, and my wife and I were just like, holy shit, like you realize we didn't stop working? Like we were busy. So we were like, okay, well maybe that's it. But it was only when we stopped thinking about ourselves, right? I want to help artists create a life for themselves. Well, that's about me, right? The artists did not want that. They wanted someone else to take care of it for them.
Different types of inspiration, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
When it was about you, it's like, when it's about them, I told them that inspiration, I think, lasts a lot longer. And when you're like, I can't rest until this solution is out there solving these people's problems.
Mhm.
That sustains you, I think, definitely.
I'll tell you, man, especially with you with the fashion thing. Like, if you, and this is for anybody, look at, especially now because social media is everywhere, if you look at a brand, look at the people that run the brand, and look, sometimes, not always, but a lot of times, the people that run the brand or run the agency or the label, they'll take photos of their, they're showing off, they're showing what they do. And there's a marketing reason for that. It's not just ego, they're actually doing it because they want traffic. But look at what they're doing and what their homes look like. One of the most interesting things to me that I learned, especially with Jeff Koons, and in fact, I just saw it the other day with Mark Jacobs, who's been showing a bunch of his own, like his inside his house, his $10 million upper, his east side house or whatever. Like, you can tell it's always about the customer, right? And you might even think with fashion, because you're like, well, this is my design, these are things that I like, so I'm going to make what I like, right? Because it's again, the hardest thing to do is take yourself out of that. Look at what they sell versus where they live and how they live. Like, not talking about money or big house or anything like that, but how they style their own living quarters, right? Like, with Jeff Koons, he has all this candy. His artwork is just chroma-colored candy. We're literally using the paint, the same paint that they use for Maybach, right? So it's just gorgeous paint, right, on crazy sculptures. But his home is super traditional, classical, like old-style Victorian shit. Why isn't that his artwork? Because it's not about him. His customers want bright candy. He doesn't have any of that shit in his house. He doesn't want to see it. It's like, that's his job. That's his work. He doesn't want to take that home. It's completely different. Marc Jacobs, I just saw the other day, was the same thing. If you look at the stuff that he puts out and Louis Vuitton and all this kind of stuff, it's like, that has a very specific style. But when he shows inside his house, it's very traditional, very minimal.
Why does he do it why does he do the candy stuff if he doesn't like it?
Because that's what customers purchase. That's what his clients want.
So why does he give that them what they want? I mean,
because they wouldn't buy it. So the deal is like art is a great thing because you can actually visually see transitions, right? You look at Warhol, right? You look at him from his very early stuff. His early stuff was completely different. Completely different. No screen prints, none of that stuff. He was hand painting stuff, and he first got his little bit of attention when he redid like a Superman. It was like a Superman comic ad, right? So he did this whole thing. It had Superman and it's like Kapow or something, and he took it to some galleries in Chelsea, in the city, and they were really interested. But he found out that there was another artist called Roy Lichtenstein who was doing the same thing, right? That already had that comic style kind of dialed in, and people were already purchasing. And so he was like, well, I gotta change. So then he started doing ads, and the ads things took off, right? He started copying ads, and he kept going on that path. But that was only because people wanted it. If he had done the ads thing, he could have done a couple screen prints, and if people hadn't bought it, he would have done something else. It's not about you, right? It's not about you. Yeah, question?
I was gonna say, like when you're saying like you should shift your idea for the customer, should you keep it so that it's still something you're passionate about? Because you said that.
Yeah, you have to be passionate about it, right? So a lot of times what you'll end up happening, and it's a hard decision, that's actually a really good point, is a lot of times you'll go on one certain path, and you'll say, well, I want to do, I'll just stick with fashion, I want to do this fashion company, I want to make this label, and it's going to be streetwear based, and skater culture and hip hop culture, graffiti culture. That's what I'm passionate, that's the culture that I'm passionate about, so that's what I'm going to sell. That's where the passion comes in from the audience and what you're delivering to make that audience happy, right? But you have to detach yourself from that product. Maybe they want skateboards, maybe they want apparel, maybe they want hoodies, maybe they want something completely, maybe it's an app, I don't know. It's up to, at that point, you have to detach yourself from the actual product. Because what will happen a lot of times is you'll put something out there and you'll be like, this is going to be blockbuster, like people love this, they told me they love it, and they'll just hate it. Right? And you have that really tough, difficult decision of like, well, is it something that I did? Is there something not right in the marketing of it, or the building of it, or the messaging of it that they don't like, or is it something that's just not a right fit? And you have that hard decision to make that choice. So it's really a protection mechanism for you, right? And that's why, if there's one thing you guys you can take away with is like, A, it's about the customer, not about you, and that the second thing to that is that the idea comes last. We all have great ideas. The ideas will murder you. It's not, the idea comes from talking to people, right? and having them pay for something, and then you realizing that that's something that people want, and then you systematize it.
It'll murder you, meaning if you follow every idea, you're just swimming in ideas.
Swimming on ideas, and most of your ideas suck. They can be brilliant ideas and brilliantly executed, and that still sucks because no one said that they want to buy it. So one of my things now is that whenever there's a new product that I want to put out there that I just think is awesome, and I've done enough research and I'm experienced enough to know, I get excited about it, and that's okay. You're going to get excited. You're like, oh my God, this is really cool. God, I want to build this. I stop myself and say, cool, now I got to find someone to buy it. So you get someone to pay for something when you're starting out before you make it, right? It's pre-selling, Kickstarter, right? You get someone to pay for something before you make it, right? And if you think about that, people do that all the time. When you're booking a hotel, right? I'm going to go to, I don't know, Florida for Thanksgiving, and so I'm going to book that hotel. What are you doing? You're pre-purchasing. You're buying it in advance. You're reserving it. There's no guarantee that that room is actually there, really, right? I mean, it could get booked sometimes. It could collapse. Who knows, right? Like, you're purchasing in advance. Same thing with airplane tickets. You're assuming that the airplane is actually going to arrive at the gate on time, but you're buying the ticket way in advance. You're pre-purchasing something in the expectation of getting a service, right? So on a small level, you know, if I wanted to start a fashion label, what I would do is I would find a t-shirt mock-up online, and this is actually what Artie was. Like, we had a t-shirt mock-up online, and I would get a design, and I would put the design on the t-shirt, right? So it looked like it existed, right? And then I would market it. And if nobody bought it, it didn't get made. And I wasted, 10 minutes, right? What I didn't do is say, this is an awesome line, so I need my first season. So I'm going to go ahead and get my samples made, and I'm going to get the cut and sew, and I'm going to put the label over here, and oh my God, you see that? Ooh, it's so smooth. Woo! You know, like, you're not doing that. You know, you don't make it until someone purchases it. You know, you don't buy 1,000 of them that sit in a box in your room and then try to sell it, because you're already starting with like 1 foot in the grave from a business perspective. No, if you want it that bad, believe me. If you have a headache, I guarantee you I can sell you Advil. Right?
I want to stop you. Let's take 1 or 2 more questions with like quick question, quick answers, and then let's take a break.
Yeah.
Wait, so when you were homeless and like living on the streets, did you ever feel like giving up, or?
No. In fact, it was the most liberating thing ever. So, you know, I had found some pillows off of Fifth Avenue, like some old couch thing. So I took that and I slept on that. And it was in a warehouse with other artists. So it was actually part of a program. So everyone else had places to live, and I had no place to live. So I kind of made a fort. Yeah, I stayed at the program. It'd be like if someone decided to live at NYU, right? You just like, you live there. And this was like a dirty ass warehouse. So I had clothes, and I kind of hid it because I didn't want anyone to know about it. And I had an alarm clock.
Is that Dustin Hoffman and?
It's
Dustin Hoffman and Robert Duvall. Do you guys know these names? The big artists.
Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, Robert Duvall is equal. I mean, he's one of the great. Anyway, they slept in the studios.
Yeah.
In the where they worked and where they acted.
Yeah, this was a little worse because I didn't have a shower and food. But yeah, it's the same kind of thing. But to finish your question, it was actually the most liberating thing. Hindsight being what it is now that I'm much older, like it's probably the best weapon I have, because most people go through life out of fear, right? People are afraid to lose their jobs. You have family that, you know, bitch about their 9 to 5, and they're just, oh my God, I can't deal with this. I gotta quit, but I don't want to quit. It's so much work.
I think that's so much fun.
And
you brought this guest speaker. The guest speaker's like, education sucks, and be homeless for a while.
Yeah, but personally, I'm not recommending it. But the lesson is that, you know, where everybody else, the reason people go through life afraid of shit is because they don't know the bottom, right? if I lose this job, I don't know what I'll do, right? Quote, if I lose this job, I don't know how I'm going to do actually. Well, I knew what happened if you hit rock bottom, and you know what? I don't want to ever do it again, right? But I know where it is. I've been there. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'm so far away from that now. Like, okay, you know where the bottom is, and more importantly, you know that you survived it.
This is what I was saying about bankruptcy. It's not the end of the world.
No.
It's like, it happens and you move on, but it's not the end of the world. Let's take one. I want to keep it short.
Are you guys enjoying this? Is it all right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Should we keep going? Because I sense it like we're 10:30, and if we see our stretching, there's like physical.
Everyone's yawning, I know.
Yeah. Any other quick questions? Go for it.
What type of work, did you do with Jeff Koons? Like, how did you help
Yeah.
with your talent with him?
So he has his business set up in 3 different divisions. There's painting, there's sculpture, and there's sculpture painting, right? So I was in the sculpture painting department. So what my job was we would get the raw sculptures from the sculpture department after they had chiseled it down and set it up and prime. We were the painters. So it was mixing paint, doing all the clear coats, like painting a car, right? So we would take samples, figure out the paint, figure out how to make the paint, match the color, get the color perfect. He had a huge auto-sized spray booth in the studio. So we would roll the sculpture in there, spray it, lock in a color, bring that color out, sand it down, lock in that color with a clear coat, right? Sand the clear coat down, start adding colors, right? Several months for one piece, right? And then you finally lock it into the final clear coat thing, and then you polish it up, and it's ready to go.
Every successful entrepreneur I know has stuff like this. It's like spray painting stuff and like sleeping in friends' apartments for a while, but like doing low-level stuff.
Yeah, and one of the important things though too is like even though I was learning that, that wasn't my goal. It wasn't like I want to learn how to use a spray booth and spray paint, right? Like industrial sprays. Although it was freaking fun. What I was doing is I would do that, and then on my lunch break, I would go to the other departments, and I would ask the managers of those departments how they were running stuff. What is that? What is that? How do you handle logistics? Do you guys ship? How do you ship homes? Oh, okay. You use that company? I'm going to write that company down. Oh, really? That's how you handle it? How much does that cost? Really? Oh, okay. So all right. Is there insurance on that? Okay, cool. So I'm learning like exactly how the business works. And I didn't think anything of it. I'm telling you, it's like being an insurgent. I was able to go in. I'm an artist. I'm dirty. I'm covered in paint. I'm getting paid nothing like every other artist there. But I'm the one that's going in and like, no, I'm learning this shit. Right? So they were very free with information because I was zero threat. If I had just come off the street in a nice suit and tie and been like, how do you run your business? They would have been like, like, get out of here. But I was seen as no threat because I worked there, I'm an employee there, and I'm just like some dirty artist, just like all the other dirty artists. But I'm the one like taking photos and notes and seeing exactly where the vendors are and their shipping is and their insurance companies and their logistics companies and all that.
Let's do one more and then take a break. We'll be around for a little bit to break.
Yeah.
What was that t-shirt company?
Which one? The one that actually does all the logistics stuff?
Yeah.
Teespring is probably one of the best. A lot of marketers use it. I know a lot of people that have made 7 figures just off that site. Anything else?
Let's take a 5-minute break. I'd like to thank you, Todd. So we'll take a 5-minute break, and he'll be here to answer questions. I know he's got to go at some point to take a call later, but he might be available if you have questions.